In 195 BC, the most powerful woman in China carried out an act so monstrous that it will be remembered for the next 2,000 years. Her victim was her husband's favorite concubine, a woman who had already lost her position, lost her son, lost any chance of power. That should have been enough. It wasn't. The empress ordered a punishment so extreme that later generations gave it a name of its own, the human pig. The woman was left alive, but reduced to something barely recognizable as human. I could spend the next minute describing what that meant. I'm not going to. The details are horrifying. If you are tempted to Google it, please don't. And then she did something even stranger. She invited his own son to come and look. Her son, the Emperor of China, walked in, saw what his mother had done, and never recovered. He sent a message to his mother. This is not something a human being could do. As your son, I can no longer govern the empire. The young emperor withdrew from government, turned to drink and pleasure, and died at just 22 years old. Before she became the most feared woman in China, the empress was simply a young woman from a respectable family, intelligent, educated, and completely unremarkable. Nothing about her early life suggested she would one day terrify an empire. This is the story how she got from there to here. What happened to her? Before we go back to the beginning, I want to show you something. After her husband died, she ruled China, not as a figurehead, not in the background. She held real power for 16 years. She abolished the brutal laws left over from the previous dynasty, reduced taxes, let the country rest after decades of war. Farmers grew food. Families stayed together. The empire stabilized. The most important history of ancient China was written about a century later. It also placed her among the emperors themselves. She is the only woman in Chinese history to receive that distinction. About her reign, the book wrote, punishment was rarely used. Criminals were few. The people tended their fields. Food and clothing grew plentiful. The woman I described in the opening, who did something so terrible that it horrified her own son, is the same woman who earned that. To understand her, let's go back to the beginning. Her name was Lü Zhi. She was born into a family of standing, educated, well-connected, respected. Her father was a man of ambition who genuinely believed that he could read a person's future in their face. At a dinner party, he met a man. The man was in his 40s. He had no money, he drank too much. He already had an illegitimate child from a woman he had never married. Her father looked at the man and decided, this one. Her mother was furious. You always said our daughter was special, her mother said. You said you would find her someone great. The governor asked for her and you said no, and now you give her to this. Her father said, this is not something women and children can understand. She was under 20 years old. She was not asked. That is the first thing you need to know about her life. Nobody ever asked. She married him. She accepted the illegitimate child as part of the household. She farmed. She raised her own children. She managed everything. Her husband, the man her father had bet on, spent his time drinking with friends, working in minor government posts, building connections across the region. She made it work. She always made it work. Then her husband joined a rebellion against the emperor, and everything changed. She did not just wait at home. Historical records show she actively helped him in the early phase of the uprising, funding him when he was in hiding, carrying messages, keeping the network together. Her family members fought alongside him. She was part of this, and then she paid the price for it. The opposing general captured her. She was held as a prisoner for 2 years and 5 months. Not in comfort, in a war camp. In a time when prisoners were used as leverage, threatened with execution, and sometimes killed when the leverage stopped working. Her husband was fighting his war. He did not comfort her. she was eventually returned as part of a peace agreement, a negotiated exchange. Like territory, like a bargaining chip, she came back. And standing next to her husband, there was a younger woman, a woman he had met while she was a prisoner, a woman he loved openly without apology. She said nothing. She went back to her duties. She was still his wife, but something had changed inside her, something that would never change back. Years passed. Against all odds, her husband won. The rebel became emperor. She became empress, and her son became crown prince. That should have secured their future. It didn't. The younger woman's name was Lady Qi, and she had a son. That son, just 3 years younger than the emperor's own son, was the one the emperor wanted to make his heir. He said it openly. His son with the empress was too gentle, too soft, not like me. He wanted the boy who reminded him of himself. For years, she fought to protect her son's position. And here's the part that almost nobody tells. She did not do it through violence. She did not do it through threats. She found 4 elderly scholars, men so respected, so famous for their integrity, that the emperor himself had been trying for years to persuade them to join his court. They had always refused. She persuaded them. When the emperor saw those 4 men walking beside his son, he understood immediately. If men of that caliber had chosen to stand with the crown prince had already won. He dropped the matter. Think about what she just did. Her husband was trying to take everything from her and her son. She outmaneuvered him, quietly, completely, using his own values against him. This is the woman history calls a monster. She was, when she chose to be, one of the most precise political minds of her era. Her husband died, her son became emperor, and she became the most powerful person in China. The first thing she did was move against Lady Qi's son, the boy who had almost taken everything from her. She had him killed. Then she turned to Lady Qi herself. She had her confined, completely isolated, stripped of sight, of hearing, of voice, of mobility, left alive in conditions that were designed not to kill quickly, but to reduce a person to something that no longer resembled a person. The historical terms for what she created is human pig. She had already won. Why? I think it was several things at once. 20 years of accumulated rage. Every day she had watched her husband look at another woman. Every day she had been reminded that she was the wife, the useful one, not the one he chose. But there was also something political. She had just taken power in a court full of men who had served her husband. Men who were watching to see how she handled herself. Men who would test her the moment she showed any softness. She showed none. And there is one more thing. Historical records suggest Lady Qi, even in confinement, had not accepted her fate quietly. She grieved loudly. She expressed her bitterness. She was not silent. The noise was the problem. She solved it in the most extreme way possible. Then she invited her own son to come and see. Why did she make her son look? We don't know. Her son, the young emperor, had always been too gentle for the world he had inherited. Maybe she wanted to show him the true nature of power. Maybe she wanted him to see what happens to those who lose. If she had lost, the victim might have been him. Or maybe she wanted him to understand something else, that everything she had done, every compromise, every cruelty, every terrible decision had been done for him. To protect his throne, to protect his life. If that was what she wanted, she failed. In a single moment, she destroyed him. She defeated every enemy. She lost her son. And I don't think she saw that coming. I think that is the most tragic part of this entire story. History called her a monster, and maybe that's fair. What she did to Lady Qi, there's no substance in it. There's no explanation that makes it acceptable. I don't think she was born a master. I think she became one. She was once a normal girl, just like everyone else. For more than 20 years, she lived with war, betrayal, uncertainty, and fear. She fought for her husband. She fought for her son. She fought for her own survival. She finally held power, and used it the way power had always been used around her, without mercy. And that leaves me with one question. Could she have stayed calm and survived?